Now that our surface is nice and dry, we're going to overglaze it. First we're going to take some of the ProFaux's glaze, open time or scumble glaze, or a combination of the two, and mix in a little bit of color. The color you add can be universal colorant, which is what I'm going to use, or alternatively you could use any water-based paint to color the glaze. I just put in a very small amount of yellow oxide and raw umber. That will produce kind of a nice yellowy, dirty color that will contrast a little bit with our wall color. I've added just a bit of a warmer brown to my glaze to darken it a little bit. I wasn't quite happy with the yellow before. And we're going to apply this with a brush. As rough as the surface is, most professionals still prefer to use a brush over a roller when applying the glaze. Sometimes if it resists, you can take a little bit of water on your brush, as I just dipped a corner, and that helps it to go into the texture a little bit easier. If you roll this on, it fills up the texture and makes it difficult to show the contrast. So take just a little bit more of the glaze and a touch of water. For a little added interest, we can take a different colored glaze using the same brush. This time I have a bit of a green, and that can be worked right into your major color. And you can work a fairly large section of the wall before you go back with some cheesecloth or some other softening tool. I'm going to take a piece of cheesecloth here. You can try cotton rag and other materials to kind of soften the effect, because we don't want to give away the tools that were used to apply the glaze. So this breaks it up, it creates some highlights and a bit of a mottled effect. If that's still too mottled for you, you can go back with a brush and sort of soften some of the areas of contrast. I like to stand back and look at the work and just get rid of anything that's grabbing too much attention. And this is the normal process. You can continue this until the wall is finished. Usually we'll start from the top and work towards the bottom. Another good tip is to puzzle these sections so they're not all the same size. You don't want each block to be 1 square yard and then see the overlap. So it's best to think of this as a big puzzle and create irregular sections where they join up. A little bit of green here. So we'll just bring this over a little bit. Again, if it gets a little too difficult to move, a little bit of water on the brush will help to fill in the little valleys or the lower areas. Remember, since this is hand glazed, it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, the idea that it's a little irregular makes it look more natural anyway. The QuarryStone is slightly porous, so it really holds the color nicely, and it looks more embedded than on a very well sealed surface. So this is what helps us to get a more natural stone-like appearance, because the surface is slightly porous. the colors look more embedded. You may see an occasional bristle that falls out of the brush. Those can be plucked out even after the finish is dry. Catch a few of them as I see them, but again, if you stand back and look and notice there's some areas that are a little too dominant, you can soften those up with the brush. If you're going to use more than one glaze color, it's important that you match the values. In other words, about the same lightness or darkness for each glaze color. It makes it that much easier to blend. If you have a very dark color and a very light color, often it will be too jumpy on the wall. Also, if you want to mix warm colors with cool colors, it creates a nice vibration. So for instance, the color I'm using now is considered a warm color, even though it's somewhat neutral. The green is considered a cool color, and therefore it creates a nice contrast with the warm. But because they're about the same lightness or darkness, they blend easily together. Once again, to make it a little bit easier to get the background, I'll take my brush and just dip it in a little bit of water, and that will help to get the color down into the lowest valleys or the recessed areas. It always looks like a bit of a mess at this stage, but as you soften it with a cheesecloth and a brush, it softens it quite a bit. Okay. For larger areas, I would recommend even a bigger piece of cheesecloth, just so it fills the hand and it's easier to get across a large wall. Once again, you don't have to be too careful on how the color is applied, but before you leave it, it's good to step back and decide what has to go. You know, a lot of times, good glazing is as much about subtracting as it is adding. So just get rid of what doesn't look good. In the next sample that we're going to do, we're going to color blocks individually. But this is a nice basic wall finish using the QuarryStone and 2 glazes. This will dry to a wipeable and lightly washable film after about 20 days. If you need more durability than that, you can go over this with a low gloss varnish. Water-based would be ideal, and that will give you more scrubability. So that completes the glazed QuarryStone.